The border war is not just a normal game. We never treat it that way. Our fan base is going to be excited. The history of the two programs back in the Big 8 days into the Big 12 days, and even now as we represent the SEC, is still alive. And ultimately, when you look at former coaches, former players, former students, former employees, their memories of Mizzou basketball revolves around this game. So that is understood. Our guys understand it from a historical perspective. Our guys have been prepared to know what it means to our fan base, but also what it's going to mean to them. So yes, we face Kansas, we face Bill Self, we face players, but we also face the history of their program. We face their individual memories as well. And ultimately, what I do believe is this arena is going to be electric, and we got to make sure we respond in a proper way.
Questions?
Coach, your team's at the quarter point of the season. How would you assess the team so far, and what's something you think they can improve on as soon as next game against Kansas?
It's still a small sample size in terms of our improvement. You look at what the games were, our opponents, and obviously the situations that we have been in. I think our guys have shown consistent character. They've shown consistent fight. They've shown consistency in certain areas. You can't control every time the ball bounces left or right, but you can control your effort. And I think our guys have done that consistently. The other thing is we just got to consistently take care of the basketball. I think our last game, we ended the half giving up double-digit points off turnovers. And we can't put ourselves in those situations. But how our team responded in the second half before halftime, and obviously in relations to the game plan, I thought we simplified and was able to take care of the ball. We were able to get the shots we wanted. We were able to get to the foul line, but we most importantly was able to defend. So I'm happy at where our defense has been trending toward, but I'm not happy with the lack of 40 minutes. We have to play for 40 minutes, and that's been a challenge to our team. That's what I've been telling them.
Coach, when you talk about the memories from former students and former coaches of this game, can you give us some insight on who you've leaned on to kind of impart the significance of what this game means to your current team?
I lean on Norm Stewart for my stories, and we all know how Norm Stewart feels. And I think when it comes down to the history of this program, you got to lean on guys like that who has seen it, who has built it. He has a statue in the court named after him. So out of respect for Coach Stewart, I'm always going to lean on Coach Stewart because ultimately the shoulders I stand on, I'm walking the same sidelines. I'm blessed to be able to do it. But also I do talk to, Mike Anderson. I talk to Kim Anderson. I talk to Frank Hayes. I talk to Conzo Martin. I talk to every former coach that has coached here, including some of the assistants. So that's a great perspective to have.
Because this
when
game.
you look at the renewal of this rivalry, obviously here pretty recently in the last few years, when you talk to Coach Stewart and other coaches, do you kind of feel like it has that kind of same passion with the fan base that maybe had when it first was happening decades ago?
Absolutely. Absolutely, because most of our fans were born into it on both sides, right? They carry it with pride. I truly believe it's one of the best basketball rivalries out there. It may not get the same respect, but it is. We know what it means to the fan base. We know what it means to the current students. It's just not a normal game. It's not. We're not going to treat it that way. They're not going to treat it that way. They won't ever do that. So for us, I just think when you look at the history, you got to respect the history, and it's something that we all signed up for.
Dennis, how much stock do you put into just momentum from game to game, just the fact that you guys will be coming in with a win and then with a loss, just how that affects morale?
Every game is different. What it does is it affects the psychology of individual players sometimes, but overall, games from one game to the next, you don't know what whistles are going to be called. You don't know how sensitive foul or physicality will be. You don't know. but in-game adjustments give us that opportunity to kind of read it. And once you read it, the momentum is the momentum. And these are high-level athletes, great players, great programs, and we both on equal sides are going to make adjustments that allow us in-game to try to come out with a victory. Bill Self is going to be Bill Self. The best part about it is Bill Self knows me, I know him. We both come from Leonard Hamilton coaching tree. He was on Coach Hamilton's first staff at Oklahoma State. I come from Coach Hamilton's coaching tree. I was his assistant for several years. So for me, we've always known each other, but Bill Self is not going to make a jump shot. Dennis Gates is not going to make a jump shot. Our players will, and we got to put them in the best situations as possible. And we got to be able to allow our atmosphere to help us.
One thing you touched on last game that happened a lot in the second half was your adjustment to high ball screens. You had already complimented Peyton Marshall and Josh Gray for their screening abilities, but what does Anthony Robinson or another ball handler have to do, and what did they do in order to allow those to work so often?
Anthony Robinson, Tony Perkins, Marquez Ward, T.O. Barrett, those guys are really good at what they do. They have to be able to take what they want and not what the defense wants to give them, right? I think when you look at scouting report, the opposition's job is to make us do something we don't want to do. Our job is, no matter what conditions, no matter what stress it takes to do it, we got to do it. We got to execute. So what those guys bring is the ability to play with tenacity, toughness, the ability to read the game the right way, take their opportunities, be physical. They are talented, they are athletic, and we just got to make sure we take care of the basketball and not have a negative assist to turnover ratio. If we come out with that stat, it gives us a chance.
Coach, what do you maybe have to change defensively when you look at a team like Kansas that just doesn't shoot that many threes and relies on hitting so many 2 points?
I think when you look at their shot selection or even their analytics and matrix, they've gone and defended or got defended by any and every coverage. When you look consistently at the different teams that they've played, not only this year, but last year and vice versa, they do a good job of getting what they want. The exposing of their opponents come from the turnovers, the transition, the ability. They're going to do what they do in half court, right? We can't help them. And when you look at their wins have come because teams have helped them along the way. And when you look at their victories throughout, whether it's preseason, non-conference, or conference, they've had strong post play. They've gotten to the free throw line. They've taken care of the basketball, and they've had guys step up to make threes, regardless if they rely on them or not. They've done a good job of making them when they've taken them. We just have to do our job, play our style. They're going to play their style, but the matrix in between is free throws, rebounding, turnovers, and you got to be able to win a couple of those categories.
Coach, when you talk about the free throws, y'all are kind of on the opposite ends of the spectrum at getting to the line. Kind of how important do you think that'll be in this matchup?
Well, we'll see how the whistle's blown. And ultimately, I'm going to demand consistency. And ultimately, it's going to be a hard game to ref. I know that it'll be difficult because the atmosphere makes it difficult. Referees aren't perfect. They're not. They're going to make mistakes. They're going to miss calls. But the flow of the game, is it going to be consistent? Is it going to be consistent at the very beginning, at the very end? Or will there be a change in how they allow us to play or not? I don't know. But that's the in-game adjustment that we have to consistently harp on our guys with to make sure that they're confident, make sure that they don't get distracted by a change. But they got to stay locked in to the game plan, and simple. It's just that simple. They have to do certain things. I think when you look at style of play, just think about the SEC ACC challenge. Our conference is in a new day of college basketball. And I don't think the respect is going to be there until you have 4 teams in the Final Four from the SEC, right? we have that potential in this conference, but each program, each coach, they coach a different style. They coach a different way. They have physicality. Some rely on three, some rely on two, some get to that free throw line. Their defenses are different. We have 12 teams that I think can legitimately get into the NCAA tournament. Will they allow that to happen? Will they pick a 7-11 conference team? That's what's going to happen. You may have two teams, 7-11, make it to the NCAA tournament. Will the committee allow that to happen? Are they going to watch these games how they need to watch them and select the best teams? That's what this conference provides, but also when it comes down to the results of the conference challenge, it was 14-2, I believe, and Auburn should have definitely beat Duke. I think ultimately Auburn's one of the top teams in the country. Alabama is one of the top teams in the country. We have Tennessee, one of the top teams in the country, so on and so forth. But there's a lot of teams that's between 15 and 20 that could be ranked in the country that's not ranked. Is the voters the same as the committee? Why is there a difference? It should be one poll. Just one poll for the whole year. Just give me one poll. Give me a real poll. Or is it an opinion? I love the involvement, but how we get to that is sometimes opinionated, and everybody doesn't watch everybody's game. And records do not indicate how good or how bad teams may be. At this phase, teams are very good, and we have a lot of great teams in our conference. There is no doubt about it. This may be the first time you have every team go to a postseason tournament. Hell, our last place team may go to the NIT. That's what I think about our conference. But again, we'll see. We will see. This is a big game for us. It's a big game for our conference. It's a big game for our players, big game for our fan base.
One last question.
Coach, you talk about the second half against Cal and the ball screens and taking better care of the ball. What's another thing you liked about that second half that you hope you can carry over to the next game?
We got to the free throw line and we didn't turn the ball over. The ball went in the basket. I think any coach will trade that any day of the week to see the ball go into the basket, limit turnovers, and shoot a high percentage. That's what we were able to do, but more importantly, we didn't allow ourselves to get distracted by the scoreboard, and we sat down, we were able to defend at a high level, and we executed our game plan. That's what we're gonna have to do. And the team that executes their game plan the best is gonna prevail. And ultimately, you know, that's how it's gonna be. Caleb Grill, I'll mention this. Caleb Grill is not gonna play. He remains out. Any information out there that is talking about a timeline ain't true. It's not true. There has no timeline been discussed at all with doctors or even myself, and that information is not going to be out at that point, and it's not out because you cannot put a time limit on what took place. We're just treating it day by day, and that's the most important thing, that he came out on a positive side of a scare. And that's the timetable, day by day. No words, no time, no numbers, no weeks, no months has been issued to this. It hadn't been. And if you hear something out there that says that, it's not taking place. It's not true. And just please don't repeat it out there that, yeah, that's the timeline, because it's no timeline. I wish I could tell a timeline, but right now that is not. Last thing I would say is good luck to our volleyball team. Obviously last night had a great first round win versus Texas State. Good luck versus SMU, which is the 10th ranked team in the country. I'm proud of what Coach Sullivan and her girls have done. And last night, our women's basketball program won a big game in the ACC Challenge against SMU here at home. So great job to Coach Pitchton and her girls, her entire program on a great victory. Last but not least, MIZ.
Thanks, Coach.